Yo, what's going on with y'all? It's your boy NeoXO coming back at y'all with another Black Clover video. Today I'm going to be talking about the spoilers for Black Clover Chapter 321. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and join the discussion down in the comment section below because we're going to be discussing this chapter starting right now. So here the spoilers come. So starting off this chapter, we get Yuno facing off against Lucifero. You know, pretty standard stuff. That's how last chapter ended, so it's just a continuation of that. Now, Yuno has this look on his face. I guess I would call it like a smug look, I guess. Kind of like semi-confident, whatever you want to call it. But he's looking at Lucifero, and I already know Lucifero just like, who does this guy think that he is? You know what I mean? And Lucifero pretty much went straight for him. I mean, he's in the direct path of Lucifero, stopping Lucifero from pretty much killing Asta. Let's be honest, Lucifer was gonna stomp out Asta, and Yuno came in and put a stop to that. Now, Yuno basically in the last chapter, basically teleported Asta. So then they have like this little area where they're, I guess you could say, safe enough for Mimosa to heal up Asta a little bit, and we get into a little bit of Mimosa's character in this chapter too. Just off the top of my head, we get into Seke's character, we get into Mimosa's character. Not too much of Yuno, to be honest. Like, I guess the last chapter kind of would lead you to believe that this chapter would be like a Yuno chapter, but I would say it's really not. Asta really, believe it or not, had a good character moment. I'll touch on that. I know that's probably what a lot of people want to talk about from this chapter, but Asta had a good character moment for sure. Even Seke, let's talk about Seke's character moment. Seke in this chapter, and Seke is just having an emotional breakdown. I mean, this is not out of character at all for Seke. I mean, he's just always kind of been this character who was kind of the type of person to bite off more than they can chew. So, and what I mean by that is he should probably have never come on this mission, but he did because, his relationship with the king or whatever. And he's basically sitting on the ground, helpless. Not that he could even stand. I mean, the captains were having trouble standing without real spell. So it's understandable why Seke wouldn't be able to stand, but I digress. Seke's on the ground crying, and he's basically saying that he's given up, he's gonna die, and he doesn't believe that there's any way that he can possibly win, which is true. Let's be honest. The part about him not being able to win, that's pretty true. But the thing is, the thing that shouldn't happen is him giving up. I mean, he should at least try to prevail, even if he doesn't think that he can win, because you never know. Lucifero might get overconfident and make a mistake, kind of like with Dante. I wasn't really expecting to see in this chapter, but what we got was Seke actually having flashbacks. Like, he's having flashbacks to pretty much the time where they were having a Magic Knights exams, and all of the captains were recruiting Magic Knights. His time with Asta, his relationship with Asta during those moments and things like that. So we see he notices Asta always based on his perspective. Now, I know this Asta's the main character, so we normally get the story from his perspective, but I really like whenever it shows us the perspective of another character. Like, doesn't get his perspective a lot, honestly, but whenever we get those chapters where we actually get to see Yuno's inner thoughts, those are really cool. But focusing on Seke, we get to see his inner thoughts and his relationship with Asta. Pretty much, Asta has always been that person who would go above and beyond what everyone else thought they were capable of. And Seke is just like, yeah, you've always been like this, and I just have never even tried, So he's basically learning something from Asta. Like, pretty much all of the characters learn something from Asta in this story. Honestly, I feel like Yami learned something from Asta. Mirio, Asta is just one of those characters that no matter who you are, how much stronger you are than him, how much weaker you are than him, you can learn something from Asta. I think that's really good, like a really good indication of his future leadership, to be honest with you. So he's trying to become the Wizard King, and he's influencing all these people around him. So ultimately, he wants everyone to be treated fairly. So this is just something, a characteristic of Asta that's just really, really fit for the job. So one of the coolest things from this chapter, to me personally, is Yuno and Mereoleona teaming up. Like, that's a really cool moment because those are two powerful characters that just from a quick glance at the series, you wouldn't have ever suspected that these two were going to team up in the future. I mean, if you had to guess that Mirio would team up with somebody, it would have probably been somebody like Yami, somebody that she maybe grew up alongside in a way, or has known longer, someone older, not a younger character like especially since they're not from the same squad. So the fact that Mirio is teaming up with instead of somebody like Leopold or Asta, the main character, it's really cool to see that these characters besides the main characters being, I guess you can kind of say that Yuna's the main character, but besides Asta and Noel in the Black Bulls, the main squad, the side squads, or not the side squads, the other squads that aren't the main Black Bull squad, it's really cool to see them get like some cooperation between each other, some collaboration, whatever you want to call it. It's really cool to see. And to add more to that point of this being a cool moment, I just really feel like Mirio is showing what she's capable of. I mean, she's going above and beyond. She was the first one on the front lines. She took down the ancient demon. She was there to fight Lucifero. Her attacks were not working against Lucifero, yet she kept continuing to attack Lucifero. Even whenever he threw her down to the ground, she got back up and kept fighting. Like I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I was saying how Mirio is just kind of like one of those characters that influences the younger generation. I mean, she can't be outdone by the younger generation because she's supposed to be leading by example. For instance, Asta in this chapter gets up, and it's kind of the same as Mirio getting up, you know what I mean? But she's further along in her journey as a mage. So switching focus, let's talk about Mimosa and Asta. I mean, this character dynamic is pretty cool. We know that Mimosa pretty much loves Asta. It's gonna be interesting to see, honestly, where Asta's love triangle, hexagon, whatever you want to call it, wherever that goes, because he basically has a harem of girls who really like him. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm I'm actually curious to see what some of the comments are gonna say, because some people are like Team Noel for Asta, some people are Team Mimosa. Me personally, I don't know yet. I'll just have to I have to wait and see which team I'm on, because they're both cool. But this is a Asta X Mimosa moment, and she's basically trying to heal him up. And I say basically because he ends up getting up, but she states that it's not even because she healed him, because she doesn't have the capability of healing him right now, because he's basically too far gone. So she's watching him get up, and she's in disbelief. She's like, how can he even get up and do all of this? And he's just slowly walking towards Lucifero. And Seke even sees this, and he's like, look at Asta being strong all the time. Look at Asta being strong again. And I never even tried to be strong. So that's that's kind of seemed like a moment that's gonna trigger something in Seke. I mean, maybe he's gonna learn a new spell or something. So that's gonna be really cool to see, guys. Seke might really get a spell. I mean, we know spells are born whenever people are can spells can be born basically when people have like a deep emotional reaction to something, and I think that's a pretty deep emotional reaction. I mean, Lucifero is like wiping out your fellow kingdommen. You know what I mean? So he's gonna have some time to shine. I mean, that seems like what it's setting up, at least from my perspective. Like scenes with Mimosa and Asta, it's pretty cool. Mimosa is basically begging Asta not to go get up and fight because Asta's he's not physically ready to be back on the battlefield. I mean, he sustained some pretty gnarly injuries. That's basically what she's trying to say. Like, your injuries are so bad that you can possibly die. So she's just begging him to stop. But at one point, she even wants to run away with Asta, except she knows that's not what Asta would want. So she doesn't do that, which I respect, because she could have been selfish and just forcefully took Asta, but she just wanted to kind of not step across any boundaries between him and her, like taking him away from where he wanted to be. You know what I mean? He wanted to be on the battlefield, so she just respected that and allowed him to be on the battlefield, even though she doesn't want him to, because it's a high possibility that he can die. So that's gonna be something to look out for in the upcoming chapters, guys. Like, Asta is really not in any condition to fight. So that's another thing that I think he can possibly be on the verge of awakening something. Maybe a berserk form. Maybe that's what it takes to master Devil Union. But in the current condition, he's just not in any shape to fight Lucifero. I mean, he's just going off of willpower. Because, like Mimosa said, he's not healed up. He's just going off of pure willpower. At the end of the chapter, we get this really close-up shot of Asta, and he is just battered up. but we already know he's going alongside Yuno and Muriel to fight Lucifero, so he's not gonna be down, and it's gonna be really interesting. Like I'm really invested into this plot line right here because it's like he already tried to fight Lucifero head on. He managed to cut off a piece of Lucifero's horn. However, it was not nearly enough. I mean, it was just a horn. So, I mean, I guess that gave him a little bit of motivation. But it's going to be interesting to see, like, what can he do? Because Lucifero might just do the same thing. Or is he... Either Lucifero's going to do the same thing, or Asta's going to have to awaken something. And that's pretty much where I'm going to end off this video. I think it was a pretty cool talking about this chapter. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, leave y'all comments and we can continue the discussion in the comment section. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. As always, it's been your boy NeoXO, and I'm out.